Well, hello and welcome. Today I want to share with you what I consider the most uncommon reason for a toilet continually refilling itself. And to do that, let me go ahead and just cover very briefly the things that are the most common culprits. So I've taken the top off my toilet here, and if you look down there, you'll see that pink flapper seal. Now, often they age and become more brittle and just don't seal anymore, and so you can buy replacements for those. And that often takes care of the dripping water and your constantly refilling flushing sound. Sometimes the seal is not the problem, the pink rubber seal, but actually the plastic piece below that, which is a part or screws into the bottom of the toilet tank. Over time, that piece can get rough and just not seal well with the rubber. And that piece actually screws into the bottom of the tank and is part of this whole entire complex. And to repair that problem, you normally have to take out this whole entire flush valve piece because there's just no way getting around smoothing it out with sandpaper or something like that. But that was not the reason. After this was actually going on for several years, and I even put dye in the water, so the water was colored, and eventually I could see in the toilet tank the water leaking from it and into the toilet bowl. But that really didn't narrow down where in here it was leaking from. I kept on thinking it was that little rubber flush valve or the piece underneath it, which you can see there, that white plastic with the black rubber around it. Neither of those was the issue, even though I had replaced the rubber valve several times. It turned out, and you can kind of see, there's a hint here, the fill tube, this piece right here, had a hairline crack in it. You couldn't even see it. But enough water was leaking through that tiny little hairline crack in the plastic tube and eventually leaking into the bowl and lowering the level of the water in the tank and causing it to have to refill. I actually had to take my fingers and spread the tube apart a little bit to see the crack, but it was there. So my temporary fix has been to wrap it with this silicone tape. And actually, that's worked. It's been a month now, and it hasn't refilled. No magical mystery flushes since then. But I don't really like this as a permanent repair. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take this entire flush valve. This is a 2-inch one, which is very common. A 2-inch flush valve repair kit, and replace this whole thing. Which is going to require removing the tank, but it sounds a lot worse than it really is. But to do that, I'm going to have to empty all the water out of here. I'm going to have to disconnect this float valve system, which refills your tank after every time you flush it. If you're wondering what this is just a system that I've installed that injects into the fill tube a little bit of disinfectant that goes into the tank and prevents it from getting all gross and dirty in the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this in a minute or two, and I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this and unscrew the 2 bolts which hold these 2 rusted nuts bolt systems that you see there. To do that, I'm going to have to turn off the water supply, and it's a little difficult here to maneuver. And then you can see that's how you just unscrew that by hand. And once you do that, the line is disconnected from the tank. and then the fill valve can be pulled out and put aside. Okay, so I'll be back in, well, as long as it takes, I'll be back to get all these pieces off and to clean the bottom of the bowl of all the water, so when I take it off, I don't get the floor all dirty. All right, see you in a while. I'm using a Fluid Master 2-inch flush valve repair kit. It's model number F507AK, and very cheap. It's about $10. So the cost of the materials in this repair is not much at all. It's the time, around a lovely environment of a toilet to make the repair. All right, see you in a little while. Well, I'm making progress. As you can see, I have got most of the water out. It turned out that I had to turn that valve pretty tight, which was a signal to me that the washer in there is getting kind of hard and brittle. So a couple other things. I noticed that I didn't mention something that actually might be of help to some of you. You see this little section of clear hose that I've attached around the chain that goes from the flush to the flapper. And the reason I put that there was because the chain, when it was pulled up, it would get hung up on the mechanism up here, which I've undone, so you can't really see it anymore. And the flapper would stay up, and it would just continually run. So by putting that little section of plastic tube there, solved the problem. So for those of you who are having the problem where you push down the lever and it never falls back down to seal, that you might want to try that to fix. And then the other very small little item is, a lot of times when you're working on bathroom fixtures, toilets, you might put something in the sink, temporarily. And if you do, and you haven't pulled up the flush lever down, that little piece might go into your pipes. So I just has a habit of always, in addition to pulling up and setting it off, the flush valve, I also put a little towel on there to catch anything. In general, though, I don't put anything in there. Okay, I'll be back in a little while. Bye. Okay, I'm back to post you in on the last couple things I've been working on. As you can see, I've unscrewed the fill tube from the mechanism on the inside, which is now gone. And I had to actually crank down on that valve a little bit more. It still might be leaking a little bit. That's why I put the towel down there. It's not enough to be a problem. But yeah, like I said before, it's something I have to deal with next time I work on the toilet if I have to. And hypocrite that I am, I said that I won't put anything into the sink, but I did want to show you that here's the fill valve mechanism, which, these are a part that often needs to be replaced because they just last, in some situations with hard water, they might just last a couple years, and you can replace the gasket and the top black cap right there. But in general, they're so cheap, I just replaced the whole thing. There was that, right there. It was that other black plastic clamp that I had showed you before, which keeps this attached to the toilet. All right, I pulled out unscrewed the nuts and the bolts, and here they are. They are, as you can see, they are really rusted. So, not a bad idea to, say goodbye to them. The nuts and the washers are actually underneath there. That's where they were. And those aren't, by the way, those aren't put on very tight because if you do torque down on them too hard, you could easily crack the porcelain of the top bowl. You just need to be tight enough so that those rubber washers that you see on the bolts seal with the bottom of the tank, because you don't want water obviously dripping between the bolts, the bowl holes there to the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna pull out the tank now, and I'll get back to you in just a little while. Bye-bye. Okay, so I pulled the tank up and out, and you can see there's a large rubber gasket there. These things are actually there to so that the toilet bowl, the toilet fill tank sets on rubber rather than on this hard. And this comes off and is replaced with a new one from the kit. Here's the bowl. Now, I'm gonna try to do this with one hand, but I'm not quite done yet because obviously I have to take this off. And to do that, let me see if I can keep this all. Yeah, okay. So underneath you can see there's a large plastic nut that holds that in place. And I'm gonna have to take that off. Again, these things aren't usually put on too tight, but I don't think I can get that off barehanded. So I'm gonna probably have to get a big pair of plumber's pliers so I can get a grip on it and unscrew it. And I'll be back. Bye-bye. Well, hey, I'm back again, and I realized that I just came across one step in this process, which might give some homeowners a little bit of a roadblock, and that is you need a fairly large pair of plumbing pliers or adjustable pliers to open up wide enough to get at this nut. Now, there are actually tools that are made that you can buy to get that off, but you know, I just want to warn you that once you get going on this, you might come up against a roadblock because you can't get on that and turn it to get it off, as I'm doing now. Also, let me just mention one other thing that happened as I was doing this. Yeah, as you can imagine, there's a lot of, you know, crap that kind of collects there over time. And so what happened was the fill tube mechanism started to rotate and spin, and so it wasn't unscrewing. But eventually it did bump up against the side of the tank, so the tube bottom assembly here stopped rotating, and at that point the nut started to break free. I still can't actually turn this thing barehanded, so I'm gonna go and stop now with the recording and get back to work and unscrew this entire thing. All right, see ya. All right, just another update in a series of many updates. So you can see I've removed the fill tube assembly, and here it is. And there's the somewhat troublesome nut. You see there's a gasket here, but again, the replacement has all this. Comes complete with everything you need, so none of this will ever see the light of day in the toilet again. I'm actually going to see if I can get this off, this tape, so I can show you the crack, and you can get a sense of like how dang invisible it was and why it took me so long to realize that's where the water was leaking. Okay, so until then, a tender adieu. Okay, back. And I removed the sealant that I had on here to prevent the crack. And you can see, this is the part of the tube that was facing forward. So you can see why I never really suspected anything was going on in terms of the tube leaking. Now, I have actually messed with this quite a lot. So because of that, the crack, which is back here, is much more obvious now. And let's see if I can just spread my hands. See, so you might go like, how could you not notice that? Well, I've been pulling this apart and demonstrating it to my wife so many times now that the crack has become much more obvious. But back in the day, there was no discoloration here. It was just, it was just invisible. Plus, it was in the back. Anyway, I'm trying to make the point that don't forget to check the fill tube as a possible location for water leaking from the tank into the bowl, causing your, irregular flushing. In my case, it was sometimes just every couple days, but still, like, something was not right. All right. I thought while I'm here, I might as well show you what comes with this kit, and instructions, of course. This is the replacement for the ring that sits on the toilet. Here's a nice new rubber gasket that sits down inside the toilet tub. And then there's an assortment of washers and nuts and rubber washers. And then this piece here goes on the top when you're all done to attach the fill tube. And again, these nuts do not get overly tightened underneath the toilet bowl. Otherwise, you're going to run the risk of cracking. So at this point, I'm going to do a massive cleanup because it's not very often you get access to all this, attractive areas of a toilet bowl. And as I do that, I'm going to try not to think of what's been going on in that area over the last several years because, there's just some things better not thought about. Okay, see you later, alligators. Well, I'm back and did my due diligence with the cleaning. I've installed the new fixture inside. I don't actually have the piece. I must have left it downstairs. This tube is provided oversized to accommodate different height toilets. So I had to go ahead and cut this, and I just used the old fixture as a example of how high this has to be. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up there. It was real easy to do with a little hacksaw, and then I had a sander and just sanded it smooth. And then on the bottom where it comes out, this little, well, it's not so little, that nut is what secures the whole assembly to the tank. Here was the old nut, if you remember. And I said that, these replacement kits come with their own nuts. So I used the new one, although I have to be honest, this one is more stout. But I just thought I'd go with all the equipment that came with it. Next thing is that this gasket goes over this, and I can't really do it while holding the camera, so I'm gonna just explain that this goes on here, and then I can place the toilet bowl tank back on the toilet seat. So let me go ahead and do that and show you the result. Okay, so I've now installed the gasket inside, and you can see that, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but essentially this red gasket provides a double seal system. So you've got the rubber gasket there, although it's not very clear. There's a rubber gasket between the overflow tube and the tank, and that plastic gasket holds that in place. But then if it leaks past there, then this gasket will catch that leak and funnel it into the toilet bowl. What pushes this against the bottom section of the toilet bowl are the two bolts that go in here and here. And again, those should not be overly tightened. Not only will you potentially crack the porcelain, but you don't really need to tighten them that much. You just need to make this section right here have a good seal with the, and I'm going to walk over here because this is not going to make sense totally. Has to make a good seal with this section right here. Okay, so so hopefully that makes sense to you, and let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, and I'm back, and just wanted to see if you could I'll give you a look at how that orange gasket sits between the toilet bowl above, or the toilet tank above, and the toilet below, and provides that seal. Greetings once again, and hopefully we're all done. You can see inside that the tank is put all back together. The overflow tube, which is all brand new, and the chain has been set at the right length, the fill valve. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you underneath here. There you go. You can see that the system that they use involves washers and that seal. I checked before I made this part of the video to see if there's any leaks, and thankfully there was not. If there was, I guess I would have made it a more interesting video, but I'd be crying at the same time. So, you know, count your blessings. All right, so I think that's it. I'll keep my eye on this for a while, see that everything's okay. But as you look at the blue wall, but everything looks to be a-okay. I was very, very careful to not over tighten anything. You can get some really scary noises as you torque down even gently on these bolts with the porcelain tank. So again, you want it to be secure, you don't want it to leak, but you'd be surprised how light a torque you really want to exert on these fittings, and still have a nice watertight seal. Okay, let's go ahead and flush this and just give you that. And I didn't need to put the little plastic tube that I had before, because it doesn't seem like the it's getting hung up. The flapper, it doesn't seem like it's getting hung up with this new setup. So I'll leave it out for now until it gets stuck. If it does get stuck, I'll put it back. All right. Okay. So this is my final tender adieu, and I hope for some of you it's been of some value, and for the rest of you, see you later, and maybe I'll have something worthwhile then. Bye.